The reek of the marsh became worse the further he walked. It was not only the stagnant water, but a stench of a deeper putrefaction. Boromir's knowledge of the history of Arnor was scant, but he seemed to recall that at some point there was a great battle hereabouts. Many of the fallen, it seemed, had never been recovered.
During the Second Age, when Sauron made war upon the elves of Eregion,
Boromir paused and looked back through the light mist at Tharbad, a ragged grey line in the distance.
I will die happy if I never see Tharbad again.
He turned his back on the ruins and started walking. But he didn't have to venture far before the walkway became rickety and then rotten. The support posts were either lopsided or absent, and the deck eventually sank into the green water ahead. He scanned the flat drabness all around, cursing himself at his decision.
you might have had better luck if you'd walked around the marshes.
Now you tell me.
He was thinking about turning back when his eye was caught by a dark shape to the northeast. The mist had shifted, and he saw now that the land there rose slightly above the surrounding marsh. For a moment, the mist thinned and glowed under the bright sunlight. He stared at the shape as it became some kind of pillar.
A long stone. You might get a better lay of the land.
If this mist clears...
He looked out across the water between himself and the stone, then started to take his boots off. He removed his hose and slung them over his shoulder as he stepped tentatively into the water. It never rose any further than the middle of his thighs. But as he disturbed the waters of the slimy bog, the stench became even stronger. As he looked from side to side, he saw that the mist was glowing in patches. The mound of dry land loomed up in the swirling mist, and soon his knees were above the water. He stepped onto the damp earth and slipped to one side before composing himself. As he trudged up the slope, the higher ground became thick with dry grass. The long stone stood ominously above everything. He guessed it must have been at least 50 feet tall. Green with age, the faintest of engravings were visible across its entire surface. Strange runes and swirling lines and dotted circles.
I wonder who raised it.
The first men. Those who lived here before the Dunedain colonized this land.
You speak as though you're not one of them.
She had no answer for that. As he leaned against the stone, pulling on his hose, the mist started to lift. The sun was a pulsating white disk in the cotton-white sky. He ate the cold goose that remained from last night's dinner and took a glug of water. He wished he still had some feigween. As well as the goose, he'd managed to catch 2 rabbits, a hare and a duck, and had tied them all to his shield strap with a length of twine he'd found in his tunic pocket. It wasn't much, all in all, but he wouldn't go hungry, at least for the next few days. He started to stroll around the long stone, running his fingers over the runes. The sky was becoming bluer, and his attention was caught by something off to the west, a straight line along the horizon. At first, he thought it might be a wall.
A dike,
said Finduilas.
The Arnorians built many earthworks along the river in their endeavors to control the fens.
Well, it looks like the only dry land for miles around,
Boromir said. He turned and looked out into the luminescent mist, then took a step back, reaching out for the stone for support. From out of the mist, a female figure dressed in a white flowing gown was floating towards him.
Mother!
He ran around the long stone and along the ridge of the mud bank, glancing over his shoulder at the ghostly figure. It glowed like the mist it had issued from and left a trail of vapor in its wake. Sprinting towards a clump of sparse, thorny bushes, he drew his sword. He stuffed his boots into his bag as he hid behind the bushes, then strapped on his shield. The spectre was floating around the long stone. It disappeared round the far side, but when it reappeared, it was accompanied by 2 more identical ghosts. They now seemed to realize where Boromir had gone as they looked along the ridge. As they started towards him, their gowns billowing around them, he readied himself. Now they sped up, and as they drew near, their faces turned from beautiful, oval and waif-like to gaunt, decaying skulls. Boromir ran towards the marsh. The water here was ankle-deep, and without his boots, he was able to sprint away from the spectres. As they hurtled after him, they disturbed the water like the wake of a boat. As he ran, the sun burned through the thinning mist, and soon he reached another mudbank. He paused and looked back. The spectres were closing in. Boromir felt the heat of the brightening sun on the back of his head. He held up his shield and blade, but just before the spectres reached the mudbank, arms outstretched, the three spirits started to lose their form. They screeched in outrage as, in an instant, they dissipated and returned to the mist.
What devilry is?
Fog wraiths, the spirits of the dead that lie in the fens.
He spent the night in the shelter of the dike, away from the glowing mist, where the air was less foul. His fire cooked a delicious dinner of fried duck and dried his hose for the following day. Then he stuffed dry grass into his surcoat, wrapped his cloak around his legs, and lay with his stocking feet towards the foot of the dike. He fell asleep, pondering the stars. Next morning, he pulled on his hose and boots and scattered the ashes of his fire. As he clambered from the water and up the steep slope of the dike, he thought he heard the bleating of many sheep. As soon as he reached the ridge of the dike, he ducked down. Across the river, not a dozen yards from the bank, was a green-clad figure. He thought that it might be the spy, Tauriel. He lay slumped against the sloping earthwork, panting as he looked around for an escape.
It's only a shepherd,
His mother said. It was indeed a shepherd. He held a crook, and now he was whistling and calling to a hound that was running circles round a dozen sheep. He was moving away from the river towards a land that was largely unflooded, but was dotted with mounds, speckled like the hill he saw north of Tharbad. They seemed to be barrows, burial mounds.
Talath Gorthad, where the army of Prince Celeborn was laid to rest after the fall of Cardolan.
She seemed to sense his lack of understanding.
I do wish you had paid more attention to your lore master, Boromir.
By now it was late afternoon. High, salmon pink and violet clouds seemed to be falling slowly towards the lowering sun. He looked across the marshland from the gnarled ancient branches lying half submerged to the brown and green islands of grass on the horizon and the still purple water between. The swan fleet seemed to go on forever. Bevies of swans flew low over the horizon, and the air was alive with the calls of rails and moorhens. Boromir pulled on his boots, then checked his gear. Finally, he stood erect and climbed onto the faint path atop the dike. Gildor glanced at the faces around him. Some of his companions pulled back their hoods, while others murmured words of passing. When Caladan returned with Gildor's bag, his arms dropped to his sides. He lowered his head. Gildor stood and turned to Merrilin.
Give this ranger a burial befitting a Dunedain of Arnor. Caladan, ride to Bree. Find Aragorn. Tell him the Nine are abroad.
Where shall we meet again, Lord Gildor?
At Woody End. The stock road at the Woodhall Junction. Tomorrow afternoon.